Hey there, let's talk about cars cause we love them. The topic of our video today is JDM cars. So what are JDM cars basically? JDM means Japanese Domestic Market. These cars were basically domestic cars, but how did they got all this hype? The reason is Initial D. This movie changed the perspective of people about these cars. The movie shows a simple boy who wins races over a mountain with his AE86, which was only meant to deliver some goodies, and just after the movie, these cars started to get admired. But the only reason for their admiration is not the movie, but because of the way they are built. They are super tunable. You can tune a Supra or an R34 GTR to more than 1000 horsepower just by yourself. If you're a good tuner, you can do it by yourself at your garage. Moreover, these cars are beautiful, fun to drive, and pack a lot of tech. They are cheap, and yeah, that part, the last one, the cheap part, makes them most famous. But this statement that the cheap part makes them most famous is no more true, because JDM cars are now very expensive. Like an R35 GTR is more than $100,000. An R34 GTR can cost you $60,000, which will be a shitbox. You'll have to put on $40,000 to $50,000 to make it a good one. So that statement becomes false now. But when the JDM cars got all that hype, they were cheap those days. Moreover, they look good. Like, they look better than their value. Look at an R34 or an MK4 Supra, and at first glance, they look modern. I'm not saying that they look new, but these cars don't look like they are more than 2 decades old. An R34 GTR, if we look at that, it doesn't look like it is 2 decades old. Or if we look at an MK4 Supra, it does not look like it is more than 2 decades old. It just looks like 10 to 12 years old, and it still looks modern. Yeah, it looks prettier than a Prius. At least to me, it looks prettier than a Prius. JDM cars bring almost infinite possibilities in them for tuning, for changings. Like put an aero on them, put a body kit on them. There are thousands of body kits for JDM cars. Get an expensive paint job because the car was cheap. And yes, this statement also has become false now. The cars are not cheap. An R34 GTR can cost you $60,000, and that will be an almost shitbox. You'll have to work $40,000 on it so that it can be called a good JDM R34. And an R35 will be more than $100,000 and will have a good paint job by default, so you don't have to get a paint job on your R35. But for an R34, you'll have to get a paint job, and that paint job should be expensive to look good, and the car is not going to be cheap itself. You can put a turbo in them, and the turbo could be bigger than the whole engine, and that turbo will sound very nice. The other beautiful thing about JDM culture is that there are teams. Like there is a team who likes turbocharged engines, and they think that the turbocharged engines are the best engines. There's a team who thinks that the supercharged engines are the best engines. There are teams who like Supras, who love Supras, who think that Supras are the best cars in the world, the most tunable, the most desirable cars in the world. And then there are people who like GTRs, like R34, R33, R32, and R35. They like all the skylines. Some people say that the GTRs are most fastest cars in the world, and they are not false. GTRs are pretty damn fast. Some say that the Civic is the fastest thing on the world, and when the VTEC hits in, it's a rocket, but it's not. We know that. Some say that everything is shit except an NSX. Yeah, NSX looks good. If you are a non-car guy, you can mistake it with a Ferrari. But sometimes NSX is better than a Ferrari. Have you ever listened to that Supra bursting out? Now you know my team. Yes, I am Supra team, MK4 Supra. Supra for life. These are different type of JDM lovers. The Miata lovers. Yeah, I forgot to mention the Miata lovers. That Miata is a compact beast. That little thing could be fun. The RX-7 gang. Yeah, the rotary engine. The rotary engines are not very famous, but those rotary engines are good. Yeah, they perform very good. They sound very good. And the RX-7 itself is a beautiful car. The most beautiful thing about the JDM culture is the competition between different teams, like WRX versus Evo. And by the way, I have seen complex and clever differentials on different cars, but that WRX STI has the most clever differential I have ever seen. That car is just amazing. I have not driven it in my real life, but I have driven it in Forza, and that car was amazing. Then there is the Supra versus Skyline gang. Yeah, the Skyline means R34, R35, R33, R32 GTRs. All the GTRs come in Skyline gang. And Supra vs Skyline R30s GTR gang is a pretty big one. There are a lot of people who like Supras. There are a lot of people who like GTRs. The JDM lovers contributed a lot to the makers, the manufacturers, but the manufacturers didn't respond any well to the fans, like the new GT86, which is the son to AE86, the famous AE86 of the initial D. It's not a fast car, it's not a fun car, it should have been a very fun car. It's just a car with Prius tires, and Prius tires don't have grip. And if you're putting Prius tires on a car, it means it's not a sport car. AE86 was a sport car. GT86 have Prius wheels, which means it's not a sport car. But the GT86 could be a pretty damn fast car if it goes to donut meal. They have done something very bad to it. Then comes the new Supra. The new Supra is not a Supra. It is just a BMW under the shell. The only thing that has properly changed in the JDM culture is the GTR. Yes, GTR has changed properly. Nissan has put a lot of effort on GTR. They have made an amazing car under the GTR franchise. Although these companies, the manufacturers, didn't even try to keep the culture alive. The culture itself worked out. That's how to keep itself alive. The lovers do car shows, and the car shows contribute most to the JDM culture. All of them meet up and show off their cars to each other, and that's the best thing a JDM lover can do. And moreover, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram pages, all of these have helped to keep the culture alive. JDM culture has always been revolving around the legendary builds, and there are some things you need to know before getting into the JDM culture. All Miatas are not riced. There are a lot of Miatas which are riced, but all Miatas are not riced. Same goes for the Civics. All Civics are not riced. Yes, there are a lot of Civics which are riced, but all Civics are not riced. Adding to this, you have to keep respect for every damn build. Yes, if you don't like a build, no problem. But don't say anything about that. Don't say anything bad about that. You have to respect the build. It is someone's dream. You shouldn't make fun of a build if you think you are a JDM lover. You should be respecting the build. Talking of build, keep this in mind. Never go cheap on a steering wheel, never go cheap on wheels, never go cheap on tires, never go cheap on seats and scaffolds when building a car. These can double the pleasure of driving it, if they are good. Most importantly, never go cheap on a turbo or a supercharger. They can put a lot of power in your car if they are a proper one. And in the end, to be a JDM lover, you have to know one thing, that the new Supra is not ugly, nor it is slow. Yes, it is a BMW under the hood, but it is not ugly and neither it is slow. It is a very beautiful looking car. It looks very beautiful, it is very precise, it is very sporty, and it is not slow. It is good. So that's all that I collected on JDM culture today. Tell me if you want anything other added to it, and tell me if you want another part on it. So that's all for today. Until next video, peace.